So hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So for today's video, I'm trying today a deck that I played from last weekend's major tournament for our local game store at Reis Place. So this build was commissioned by my card and poolmate Erickson with the help of course Master Oliver in making the Grixis build to adjust probably for our local meta game. So we're going to sort out what cards what were added, also our basic lands, the lands and creature choices and other spells that was taken from the reference that probably Oliver has been playing in his account in MTG Arena and also for the other competitive events that was held online. So as we go around, we're going to look at each of the creature choice as well as why it was adjusted to that build. So just a quick recap from the weekend's tournament. It was quite jam-packed. That was attended by at least 26 players, and sadly my record from that tournament was just it was 2 wins, 2 losses, and I think that was 3 wins. Sorry, it was 3 wins and 2 losses, and I ended up in 10th place in the final ranking just before after the Swiss rounds. So again, I'm just going to sort this out for a bit and then discuss to you why this lineup was probably taken off, probably because of adjustments for the local meta game. So we're going to check that if you're going to see it here, the creature choices, of course. This was stuff of what Grixis offers: the Corpse Connoisseur, Corpse Appraiser, and 4 copies of Bloodlight Harvester. So basically one of your early curve early on, or the way that can be aggressive if needed against control decks. So these are your top choice. This is also along with Tenacious Underdog, wherein early on can be a good beater, and also having this blitz ability in the late game can be good in certain situations, especially that there are times that you would need to attack planeswalkers and have them open up enough blockers, or they wouldn't really expect blockers to have them, or you can just kill out their lone blocker and blitz away with Tenacious Dog to kill off their planeswalkers. So there are 3 copies of this, making sure that the late game is very aligned with the setup. And our new acquisitions from Dominaria United, of course, Shouldered. We have 3 copies of this Lady, Correction Lady, which is the best card from the set, probably, along with the Lion of the Veil. So 3 copies to make sure that with the solid 4-drop, and along with her abilities that static, basically making them lose life for each their card draws. You can just basically control out the board and just have Shoulder just sitting there or have been standing there to block, and just let the lose life deal with their opponent's total life total and having them to die in the setup. So also along with it we have Airtie Resurrected, which is very good against countering relevant spells, activated abilities, triggered abilities if needed, and also destroying creatures or planeswalkers. So the drawback of just having them draw a card might be relevant in some situations wherein, for example, it's quite difficult to deal with other mid-range decks, for example the mono-white control or the mono-white mid-range, wherein having them to draw a card really matters in this matchup, in which you can also kill out their creatures, but we will just draw into another threat with the creature value instead. So 3 copies of this and the setup. So the usual addition for a typical Grixis, which is also adapted for the black-red setup. From the black-red setup is Fable the Mirror and Myth of Massacre. So the sweeps here, basically here, and Fable just to put out some card draws early on, create this token, also have tricks with Cable's ability of reflection and having cards like this reflected to produce constant removal, or also have multiple copies of underdogs to attack if needed. So those are just examples of the certain situations in the late game wherein you can just flip out or just win with 2 copies of flip Fable to attack, producing tokens depending on your mana at any turn. So for this mass removals, we have this, and also Buster was now given a main deck slot because of the setup of having to card draw, and later on could be able to cool with this guy or just air tie also to attack for 4 damage. So card draws here is very important given that most matchups are requiring to have more gas if needed. So given that this deck also has a relevant number of gas, but having Reckoner in the main deck is making sure that those gas are continuously provided with this card draw and more additional creature threat if needed. Also, so for our spot removals, so Voltage Surge is then back again for the lineup, which I think was previously replaced by Play with Fire or Flame Blasted Bolt, but since this is very relevant because of killing 4 damage to any 4 toughness creatures or 4 loyalty planeswalkers would be very relevant, so 3 copies of this. We also have the new cards known as Vortex, which can basically unsummon for the creatures or planeswalker, but whenever it hits kick, it is pushed in the bottom instead. So that is very also relevant in scenarios wherein you can face, example, you are facing a creature like Ow, for example, which has Dice Trigger ability. So you can just basically click this card to put it into the bottomless bonus level instead. So this is also very relevant removal. Along with it is 2 copies of Fires of Victory. This is just a cheap situational removal wherein the damage is dealt equal to the number of cards in your hand. Can be good early on, but the late game can be just a short kill for any cheap creature with the low toughness. But the good thing is that you can also kick it for blue mana and 2 colorless for an extra card draw. This is also relevant, especially in the late game. So also the spot removals that has double utility here is Soul Transfer from Kamigawa Dynasty. This is there are situations where you can just certify this, especially if you have Blood Token from Blood Harvester and you have Fable Breaker online. You can just choose 2 wherein you can exile a creature or planeswalker and also return a creature or planeswalker from the graveyard. In my situation, I was able to return a Shoulder again with this card and also exiling the relevant creature or planeswalker in the process. So with this total removal in the main deck, making sure that the creature board is very controlled and you can just have Shouldred, Tenacious Underdogs, and the Buster to let you win the game, the late game in the setup. So the card for the lands, it is basic. Some of these Pain lands, Super Springs. Of course, there's lands, 4 copies of this, along with the utility cards, Takinuma, and also added Second Sun Hordis. You can also produce spirits to block or attack if needed. And then Tawara NCT, wherein there are situations where it was able to bounce the Mythic card to your hand and then play it again for another sweep. So this is also a very good card to include in this deck. So along with the slow lands, again, making sure that your total lands here is 26 with the main deck 34. Now we go with the sideboard. It's a quick preview of the sideboard I made or I played for this. It's have anti-artifact and small creatures with a braid. Also added the Graveyard Trespasser for needed matchup against blue. Mono blue Djinn relies on number of instances in the graveyard, so making sure that you remove the graveyard along with this Graveyard Trespasser, and also relevant in most matchups maybe for the mirror with Tenacious Underdogs being removed also. And along with it, with the plan against blue was 2 copies of Licensed Hearse to make sure that the Djinns are basically empty and attacking, and their power would be very low. And so this is also a good creature to attack in the late game with a clue 2 only as a requirement. So this is for your mono blue matchup. Sorry, maybe for other mid-range decks, I'm not really sure if this build is specific to any archetype in the meta game. I just added 1 or 2 copies depending on how I feel if you're going to go against mid-range and other control decks. Additional also will be Mythic Massacre for aggro, and then more Reckoner Buster to make sure that your gas are very consistent against mid-range to control decks, and also soul transfer in game, and that Jures can be also very good against mono blue. In setup, you can just keep out their counter spell or to need, if there's a need that you dissolve your shielded to a good counter spell in the setup. But still, it's a very hard matchup on this. So for a quick recap of my as I have mentioned earlier, there's matchups for the tournament that was 2 mono blue and 2 mono white, and a lone red green aggro in the last round. So I basically lost. I won first 2 rounds against mono blue and mono white, and then lost in the next 2. Also with the same crucial matchups with mono blue and also with mono white, which took a while. Our game 1 took a while because of the maybe the slow setup with how the gameplay went back and forth and the setup. So anyways, I would still recommend this deck if you're going to do with the build, or there's a local game in your area wherein you play with standard in this, and maybe just adjust some of the main decks, maybe change this to the Soul Canar build if there are times that you would need more solid creatures in the game, in the main board or in the field, instead of just having some of these spot removals. So that would depend how your meta game would look and how would you feel that would fit all of these creature setup on this. So that's about it. Thank you for checking this short but quite detailed deck tech about the Grixis mid-range that I played from last weekend's tournament. If you like this content, I would suggest that you would subscribe for more of these type of Magic the Gathering strategies, contents, and other related news. Also might have more previews for the upcoming Brothers War if they're available. So that's about it. Thank you for checking this video. Until the next time.